How to Blow Up a Pipeline is a 2022 film directed by Daniel Goldhaber. It follows a group of climate revolutionaries who decide to place bombs along a Texas pipeline to send a message to oil executives and force them to cut down their CO2 emissions. Upon its release, it received praise for its bold look at eco-terrorism in the age of the climate crisis. However, upon further inspection, some cracks began to show. While on the surface the film seemed to celebrate sabotage in the name of climate activism, it quickly became obvious that the film promotes practices that would be counterintuitive or even outright dangerous to any would-be revolutionaries. So rather than serving as a guide on how to blow up a pipeline, as the title suggests, the film becomes a guide on how to get arrested doing it. Before we tackle the film's approach to luring in potential eco-terrorists and getting them arrested, we have to make it very clear which version of How to Blow Up a Pipeline we are discussing. How to Blow Up a Pipeline has been marketed as an adaptation of a book with the same title, written by Andreas Malm. While the two share the same core idea, there are major differences in their execution. Malm's book is non-fiction, focusing on the ethics of eco-terrorism and its implementation into the largely pacifist climate change movement. In contrast, Goldhaber's film is a fictional narrative. It follows the story of 8 entirely fictional people who decide to perform an entirely fictional terrorist attack. And while the book was written by an actual climate change activist who was involved in various protests and small-scale sabotage, the film had a very different approach to acquiring its more technical elements. The credits of the film list an anonymous technical advisor. In a Q&A, Goldhaber revealed that the uncredited technical advisor is a high-ranking official within the United States military who chose to remain anonymous. Goldhaber then goes on to say that the advisor had significant say in the direction of the film to ensure that everything portrayed in it is accurate and the film isn't doing anything dangerous. While the involvement of a United States military official on its own doesn't necessarily reflect an ideological influence on the film, I want you to keep this in mind as we go down the steps How to Blow Up a Pipeline presents us with in order to blow up a pipeline. Starting with step 1, radicalize yourself. The film's approach to its pro-terrorist arguments are very different than the book's. Malm advocates for targeted destruction of property as a way of pursuing real change with the limited amount of time we have left, backed up by various examples from history proving organized sabotage works when implemented correctly. The entire concept is rooted in logic, providing rational reasons as to why this is the only way to proceed and citing sources from the past and the present. The film dramatizes the pro-terrorist argument by giving a face to the climate disaster. Each of the 8 protagonists have personal reasons for wanting to tackle the climate crisis head-on. But unlike Malm's reasons, which are all firmly rooted in logic and science, all of the film's motivation is driven by emotion. Sochi's mother died due to a surprise heatwave triggered by rising temperatures. Theo suffers from leukemia caused by living next to chemical plants and oil refineries. Alicia is Theo's partner and is drawn in by her love for the dying woman. Michael is purposeless and angry at the system, wanting to make some real change by any means necessary. Dwayne is being forced off his family's land in order to provide room for a new pipeline. Rowan and Logan are anarchists and vandals who want to cause mayhem against the establishment. And Sean is never given any proper motivation for his involvement other than a love for the environment. While Malm aims to make you think and reconsider your arguments, Goldhaber's film aims to trigger you emotionally. The characters are everyday people whose lives have been greatly affected by climate change. The film wants you to relate to at least one of the characters and become enraged at the system after seeing the fictional ways they've been affected by it. It wants you to act on impulse, to enact violent change without any rational backing. This could have been done purely to fit the film medium better. but if the propaganda of the past has shown us anything, it is that emotion triggers a much stronger desire to act than logic. Emotion has the power to change minds. Logic isn't nearly as effective. Once you're angry at the system and ready to act, it's time for step 2. Assemble a team. The characters of Goldhaber's film assemble a small team of terrorists that acts independently from any climate movement. This is already in direct contradiction of the book. Malm argues for a movement-wide shift toward sabotage. A small team is not only unlikely to be able to make significant change to the CO2 levels of the atmosphere or inspire people outside their group to do the same, it is also a lot easier to stop. Arresting 8 people before they blow up major infrastructure is nothing compared to breaking up an entire movement. The size of the team aside, the film explicitly shows us how each of the protagonists met, and prior to the attack, they were for the most part strangers. While Sochi, Sean, Theo and Alicia already knew each other, Michael, Dwayne, Logan and Rowan are complete strangers, who were introduced into the movement without any significant background checks. Sean briefs Dwayne, Logan and Rowan on their plan to sabotage one of the largest pipelines in the US within minutes of knowing them. Michael's introduction is especially troubling, as his invite into the team came from him publicly posting his bomb-making attempts online. By the way, both Michael and the rest of the team recruiting him are shown to use their full real names while communicating online about their plan for committing terrorism. The film encourages you to publicly broadcast your terrorism plans online and to work with complete strangers on bringing them into fruition. Strangers who could either decide to report those plans to the authorities before they leave the planning stage, or be the authorities themselves, something we'll touch upon in step 5. With the FBI known for spying on, infiltrating and radicalizing groups online, a team of strangers who met through the internet after publicly broadcasting their terrorism plans is pretty likely to end up with a federal agent as a part of it. Once you have your team, it's time for step 3. Go in unprepared. The film adaptation of How to Blow Up a Pipeline is stylistically a heist film. The ensemble cast with different specialties, the synth soundtrack, and the presentation of the sabotage as an intricate plan that goes off without a hitch are all in line with classic heist film tropes. However, unlike a heist film, there are no obstacles in How to Blow Up a Pipeline that would put the plan at stake. The film goes to great lengths to portray everything the group does as easy. Actions that would get them arrested or killed result in no consequences whatsoever. Sabotaging security cameras, digging a massive hole in an open area undetected, being caught by a government drone and then promptly destroying it. And other than just meeting online, the group communicates largely via standard text messages, an extremely easily traceable method. There are many moments that would, in reality, put their plan to an end. But both actions that would get the team caught before they complete their plan, and those that would lead to them getting arrested after, are presented as non-threats. At one point, Alicia gets hit by a barrel they were carrying and bleeds all over the crime scene. Soch even points out that leaving DNA evidence would get them caught, but nothing is ever shown to come from this blunder, same as with everything else in the film. As the film needs tension and conflict though, some fake obstacles needed to be thrown in. While large actions that would put the team at risk are presented as easy, small inconsequential actions are presented as hard. Sochi being unable to cut open the lock on the abandoned house using bolt cutters, rolling and carrying heavy barrels, the strap used to carry one of the barrels breaking. Those are presented as the most difficult challenges the group has to overcome to finish their mission. The only show-stopping moment that nearly foils the entire plan is a scene in which Logan and Rowan decide to have sex in the desert before shutting off the oil supply and completing their part of the plan. The only real obstacle in the film comes from an easily avoidable character flaw rather than a plausible external threat. The film is very intentional about presenting pipeline sabotage as relatable, justified, and cool through its heist movie aesthetic. It is intentional about presenting real obstacles that would bring any terrorism plan to an end as simple, while small obstacles are presented as game-ending. In doing that, the film presents the act as a whole as easy. By placing the focus on easily avoidable obstacles, audiences are led to believe they could do the same as the film's activists. After all, if they can avoid what is presented as the hardest challenge the team is facing, they could probably complete the entire plan too. But avoiding having sex during a 2-day property destruction mission is a lot easier than not blowing yourself up in the process. Speaking of which, it's time for step 4. Follow the recipes. Despite the title, the book contains no bomb-making instructions or advice for actual pipeline sabotage. The closest the book comes to a guide is a section in which Malm explains the most effective way of deflating an SUV tire, but even that example doesn't result in any permanent damage to the vehicle or anyone driving it. The book's discussions of pipeline sabotage are purely hypothetical. Not only does Malm not give actual instructions for blowing up a pipeline sabotage is only one of the many examples of property damage sprinkled throughout the book. In contrast, the film explicitly shows each step of the bomb-making process. Each ingredient is named and the method of assembling it is shown in excruciating detail, even showing the character's notes on the required quantities of each item. The group discusses the best placement for the explosives for causing the maximum amount of damage to the pipeline. The question remains, how accurate are the recipes shown to us? An ex-IRA member who served jail time for his involvement in the movement discussed the bomb-making presented within this film for the channel Marxism Today. While the film shows each ingredient used, all of the products shown are impure household items, like drain cleaner and stump remover. It's undeniable that these could be used to construct an explosive, but working with ingredients as chemically impure as these is likely to cause serious injury or death to the person making it before it is ever detonated. This extends to the equipment used. Michael uses a regular metal knife to mix unstable compounds for the core of the explosive. This provides another point at which an unplanned chemical reaction could occur and stop the revolutionaries before they ever make it to the pipeline itself. The threat of blowing themselves up in the process is even mentioned at one point, but quickly brushed off as more of an inconvenience. And the only point at which it does happen, and the chunk of the explosives used to blow up an entire pipeline explodes in Michael's face, he walks it off, mildly annoyed. Just like with any other threat in the film, the life-changing consequences of the group's actions are not shown or spoken about. The other advice the film gives wannabe terrorists aims to get them arrested. This one aims to get them killed. And this is not a coincidence or the result of the filmmaker's ignorance on the subject. I want to bring your attention back to the start of the video. One of the areas that Goldhaber explicitly confirmed the US counterterrorism official was involved in is ensuring that the bomb making is portrayed as accurately as possible. With an expert like that on their hands, the filmmakers can no longer plead ignorance. The film, and the government officials involved in it, have deliberately spread recipes designed to maim or kill the people attempting to use them. But if you have somehow managed to survive following how to blow up a pipeline's bomb recipes, their last piece of advice will most certainly get you arrested. Step 5. Work with the police. In the third act of the film, it is revealed that Rowan, one of the activists working on the plan, is an FBI informant. A bit later, it is revealed that Sochi and the rest of the group were aware of this the entire time, and proceeded to go with the plan anyway. The film presents harmful misinformation in both Rowan's and Sochi's perspectives. Let's start with Rowan. Rowan is an anarchist vandal who gets arrested for graffitiing government property. To plead out of the 5-year prison sentence, she agrees to work as an FBI informant and expose another terrorist movement. Her involvement with the police does not end up stopping the explosions, but it does grant her full immunity. Rowan ends up not spending a day in prison, and the FBI even pays her for her help. This is as far removed from the realities of working with the police as possible. Police officers are trained to offer potential plea deals to the defendant during the interrogation, in order to get them to say more than they are currently letting on to. These verbal deals negotiated with the defendant are not legally binding. They are allowed to, and will, lie to you if it leads to you and others getting arrested. Showing the police cooperation not only working out for Rowan as far as the jail time is concerned, but also resulting in her getting paid after a successful terrorist attack, is ignorant at best and intentionally harmful at worst. And again, I'd like to remind you who the lead technical advisor on the film was, and which of these options is more beneficial to them. Now let's look at Sochi's side. Sochi finds out about Rowan's involvement with the FBI before any of the plan takes place. She still decides to proceed with it, outsmarting the authorities and successfully blowing up the pipeline despite this hole in her plan. The film doesn't only encourage working with the police directly, it also encourages knowingly working with police informants. This is another element to the film's neglectful portrayal of any real obstacles the team is bound to face. All of the police are presented as dumb and clueless in the film. The local sheriff is an alcoholic who stops for a drink before the arrest of a group of terrorists. And the FBI is tricked by a small group of activists despite knowing the full details of the plan and the locations they are intending to target beforehand. The message is clear. When the previous advice inevitably results in federal agents infiltrating your group, your best course of action is to work with them rather than against them. They are not a real threat to your plan, and cooperating can even get you out of future prison time. Posting and looking up bomb recipes on the internet. Recruiting strangers online using your full legal name, and immediately giving them the full details of your terrorist plans. Knowingly working with the police, believing you can outwit an entire branch of the government. Leaving DNA and security camera evidence of your actions. If how to blow up a pipeline's bomb recipes don't kill you, its other advice is bound to get you arrested. And it does happen in the film. 2 of the 8 activists end up getting arrested, the 2 that planned on getting arrested in the first place. Their arrests are presented as the brave acts of martyrs, and they inspire more sabotage within the climate change movement. Even the only genuine moments of the film, portraying the inevitable arrests of the aspiring terrorists, are twisted to lead to impressionable audiences desiring to follow suit and throw the rest of their lives away for little to no effect on the cause they're invested in. In real life, your arrest wouldn't position you as the Jesus of climate change. It would result in you discrediting other activists and being disowned by your own movement. An idea that the book the film is based on spends a considerable amount of time on, replaced with simple climate martyrdom to better suit the views of the anonymous technical advisor. So, if you want to get fired up, act on impulse, spend the rest of your life behind bars, and likely be alienated from the rest of the climate movement, the film adaptation of How to Blow Up a Pipeline is the perfect place to start.